All right, let me know if you can see my screen there. Perfect. All right, so yeah, today we're gonna go over how to build a daily bias. So this is something that I personally do every single day. And I find that the days that I don't actually do this are the days where I trade or make more mistakes because I don't have my daily bias. So to do this, I just use the Woodsbot levels and I'll just chart them onto my actual chart. Specifically, the way that I trade is just using Woodsbot levels. So for me, I want to know where the nearest support and resistance are. And to do that, I typically will always start with Bitcoin and Ethereum, since the majority of the market's going to follow what Bitcoin specifically does, outside of a few times where alts and ETH can be stronger. But you want to know where the nearest support and the nearest resistance are when it comes to Bitcoin specifically, because if we're coming into resistance, you're not wanting to long in the market. And if we're coming into support, you're not wanting to necessarily short. So you kind of want to understand where those levels are, but you also want to understand kind of like where the dead zone is, where the areas where like it's very likely to get chopped because price is just going to do nothing. And we had a lot of that this week. Like we had a lot of grinding into resistance, like these 4-hour candles. It's like an entire day of just like grinding into resistance, right? So, first of all, it's not an area where you would want to long. What you would want to see is kind of exactly what we got, right? Like a decisive break above with a nice retest. And then this is where you would look to long. But it's important to understand where your nearest levels are and where kind of you shouldn't be trading or where you don't want to trade, because it's like where you're most likely to get chopped up. I think ETH was like just the price action this summer, like this here, is horrendous. So what you want to do is avoid this, right? Building your daily bias is going to help you understand that the levels you're waiting for are going to be like here, or like pushes down towards, levels like this, where on lower time frames, if we go, price becomes overbought or oversold on the RSI, right? These are like areas where like the market's more likely to reverse versus just this area where you're kind of grinding at the 50 level. Like here, for example, this is prime price action to just chop people up. Impatient traders are going to flip-flop bias from long to short. You're just going to lose a bunch of money in these times. And this is like from, it's August 3rd. Like that's almost 2 days of price action of just like a very small range here. A 1% range on Ethereum, right? This is where you're just going to get absolutely chopped up. Whereas if you're building a daily bias from the start of your day and you're understanding that like the areas where you are going to want to execute trades, right? Like, these pushes into resistance or these like touch points into support, right? Like this one here coming close to support, this one here at resistance, these levels here pushing into resistance, right? Like these touch points on the Woodsbot levels are where like you're actually going to want to execute while avoiding these times of like chop. And it's important to learn that because like the market ranges like 70 to 80% of the time. And, if you're not understanding how to trade ranges, you're not understanding how to trade at the extremes or at correct levels, like you're just, especially in this summertime, going to get like super chopped up. So one of the things I like to do is just start my day by building a daily bias. So that for me means taking, the 4-hour chart, turning my levels on, and I just put these on manually so that when I take the indicator off and I go to lower time frames, I can see exactly where the levels are. So what I'll do to chart my daily bias is I'll do it with Bitcoin. I'll do the same thing with Ethereum so that I understand the support resistance levels on both the majors. And then I'll also look at the indexes. So total 2, total 3, as well as importantly USDT. So this is a chart that acts inverse to crypto. This is the dominance of stablecoins, meaning that like when stablecoin dominance is going down, money's going into the market. When stablecoin dominance is going up, that means people are going into stablecoins, so the market is inversely going down. So having these 4 charts here, Bitcoin, Ethereum, total market cap, which is all of crypto, total market cap of crypto, and USDT are what I chart my daily bias with each day. And so doing this gives me the ability to understand that like we may be in a choppy period like this on Ethereum, and I may only be looking for the extremes, which I'll have to be patient for. But that's fine, because I know that like when price reaches these extremes, it gives me good opportunities to get intraday positions versus just kind of forcing things. So I'm curious here how many of you guys actually do chart a daily bias before trading too. We only got 3 in here because it's kind of Sunday, but do any of you guys actually do you make a daily bias before you trade for the day, or do you just kind of hop in and go with it? I have already started to look at USD dominance before everything. Yeah, that's a very important chart. I've been using that a lot lately. BTC and ETH as well. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, it just gives you more confidence to know that, like, say the indexes and Bitcoin and ETH are at resistance, and they're like overbought, and you have divergences and stuff, and then you have inverse divergences on USDT into support. Like, it gives you a much higher confidence level in taking the trades versus kind of like maybe 1 or 2 of the indexes and everything line up and the others don't. Like, really, when everything lines up is like, it's a much higher hit rate for sure. And as I'm going to any questions you guys have on, how I look at the indexes or how I build a daily bias and stuff, feel free to ask for sure. But essentially what I'll do is just chart I'll go on the 4 hour and chart out all my levels on Bitcoin and ETH. And then, for instance, today, like, where'd the day open up? We're looking at Bitcoin. Like, you can see we're kind of just in the middle here of like no man's land. Like, yeah, sure, we kind of have like a low time frame level here. But what I'm going to be looking for, let's say if I was charting my daily bias on Bitcoin here, is we have like very clear levels here, right? This resistance level here with these like equal highs, right? I'd be looking for short into this. Like, if we get triggers for a short into this, I'd be waiting patiently for something like this happen. I'm not looking to short anything in between. And for instance too, if we had pushed higher on a very nice impulse and taken like these, and say we start like flipping this level, right? Then I would look for longs on this level. But this becomes like a key level for me to start looking to get positioned one way or another, depending on what the price and triggers tell me. But I'm not really looking to do anything in between. And if I'm looking to long, I'm mapping this out here. Maybe we sweep these lows, maybe not, but like this level here is nice, right? You kind of have this range here where that price is starting to slowly range between. So maybe we do reject here and then we come down into here early week before I move higher. Whatever happens, I'm just going to have these levels and I'm going to set alerts at them. And especially on the weekend, I'm not looking to press price action, right? Like, it's even lower liquidity. It's just price is moving. Like, if you go to the 1 minute chart on Bitcoin, it's hilarious, right? Like, it looks like a shit coin. Like, this is the Binance Bitcoin chart, right? Like, just absolute absence of volume. Like, look at this. There's periods of like 15 minutes where like the price literally doesn't move. Like, it's just dead, right? I'm not looking to press price action when it's looking like this. So what I'd be doing is like looking to the extremes, the levels in which I know there's like liquidity, there's going to be some sort of reaction, right? Like, we have these stacked highs here. We're going to get some sort of reaction here. Being able to short here into the early week and then long down here would be fantastic, right? Or maybe we just push up and it's like the short triggers don't present themselves here and we end up like flipping this level. Then, I would look to position here for a move up into even higher to take out, these highs and stuff. But I'm mapping my levels for the day, setting alerts, and just letting price action do its thing without pressing too hard to like force things, right? If we look at Ethereum, ETH is also at resistance, right? Like, we've been chewing away at this resistance for some time, but like, I'm not looking to long here. we get a move into here on ETH, this would be a fantastic opportunity for longs, right? And so if we do push higher and we go for, in tandem Bitcoin going into resistance and we go up here, right? This is what I'd be looking for on Ethereum. You could look for shorts here, but look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 4-hour wicks into it here. You've got to press into here, a big move up where we took this liquidity and still holding strong, right? Like we didn't even break below like here. This is probably going to push higher, especially if Bitcoin continues to push into resistance. We swept all this and we didn't even come back down to here. The market is strong for sure. Overall, I am looking for longs, right? Because as we're building a daily bias, you can see, price has broken out of this downtrend, right? Same way price had broken this uptrend here for a bit. We've now broken out of this downtrend, grinded resistance, we flipped it. So the market's strong, right? I am expecting a push into these highs. Whatever happens there, I will have alerts and I'll be waiting, but I'm not looking to force anything. Same goes for ETH, right? Broke out, flipped this level, put a big test up here and swept, and now we're just holding, like I said. Chances are we start to move back into this resistance here where ETH has rejected before a few times, just like this, right? So just mapping things out on higher time frames and kind of getting an idea of where you want to execute in the market and setting those alerts and just waiting for price to get to that point is going to save you guys so much headache in a market like this. And then you tie it in with everything else, right? This is a strong close on total market cap, right? You can see how strong the market is. We tested this resistance 1, 2 times here, even rejected here previously, and now we finally closed above it, right? Most likely we're going to start to move towards this. The same way if you're looking at Bitcoin, you can see it's strong. You can see ETH is strong. Like I said, we swept and we're holding here, right? You can tell this wants to push higher. So looking at all this, right, I'm not looking to necessarily short this level, especially after a 4-hour close above the 4-hour resistance on total market cap. Again, this chart too, breaking out, retested, right? Now we're closing above here. We're most likely going to gun for these highs. Now, what happens in terms of how we get there and how long it takes, whatever, I don't know. But this is a very strong closure. So looking at this, building my daily bias with you guys, I'm not looking to necessarily short unless we get really clear triggers, 30-minute overbought divergences into this area. I would look to, but so you can see even 30-minute on Bitcoin, if we do consolidate a bit here and we do push up, you would have nice triggers here. Say we push up like this, right? 30-minute bearish divergence, overbought, you would have nice triggers for a short here. ETH is not nearly as overbought. ETH does look like it wants to push higher if Bitcoin goes for it. Total is getting overbought even though we got the close above, right? So you can still get some sort of pullback before things move up. But overall, the market does look strong. Bitcoin does have short triggers into our area we were just looking at, building our daily bias here if we get it. And then you can also tie everything in with USDT as well, right? You can see that USDT isn't at support yet, right? We have lower to go for USDT to actually be at a strong support. So that tells you also, right, this is an inverse chart. When this is going down, the rest of the market is going up. When this is pumping, the rest of the market's going down, right? You can see Bitcoin's going up, USDT's going down. So when we get to this support level, it probably lines up with what we're looking at around here, some sort of sweep in this liquidity. ETH probably does make a push into here. You get total making some sort of push, at least to take this liquidity up into here, and USDT probably comes down here. Now, if you start getting 15-minute or 30-minute divergences across all these charts with, all of these triggers lining up, For the shorts, you know, you're getting the bull dips here. You probably have really good area to try for some shorts. And so you can see that just taking, you know, like it's been 10, 15 minutes to look through these at your levels and kind of line all four of them up. It gives you a really clear idea of where you should actually be executing. And it kind of just like, it avoids you just opening the charts and not really knowing what's going on and just deciding like, oh, I'm not in a position. Maybe I should long, maybe I should short. You know, trading is all about planning the trade and trading the plan, right? So it's like take 5, 10, 15 minutes to really map out your areas, set your alerts, and then, you know, when price gets there, you can either trade Bitcoin and ETH, right? Like if we get all these triggers for shorts up here, say we either just take this or we push into here. You can look at altcoins, you can look at to take these, right? You can just understand that like, okay, this is an area now in which, you know, Bitcoin is sweeping its highs. We have ETH sweeping highs into resistance. You have USDT now sweeping lows into support. You can look through your alts, you can look at the levels and the divergences and say, okay, you know, what's a good trade for me to take now that price is at a point where like we have a lot of triggers for a reversal. So kind of covering a lot there, but let me know if you guys have any questions on building a daily bias. I'll take a look here. Yeah, so let me know if that makes sense, Brushin, on kind of like covering Bitcoin, ETH, and the different indexes and like kind of just building a bias of, you know, what levels do I actually want to execute at? I read BTC, ETH, and USDT. Yeah, very nice, Night Owl. It helps a lot. Like as you get used to doing this too, like it might be a bit confusing doing this at the start. You do this for a week, you do this for 2 weeks, you do this for a month, you really start to see the patterns of how like tying all these charts together, even 10 minutes a day, will really help you navigate the market. And it is incredibly useful for like times of chop like this right now. Like how you're saying, Brushin, it's been very hard to get a good handle on direction because there is no direction, right? Like this is just crazy. Like this is just absolutely brutal. And so having your daily bias set here to say, okay, well, I'm either going to execute a trade. Let me just clean this up a bit here. Because like don't be down on yourself for being confused. Like this market is literally confusing everybody. It's like exactly what it's doing, right? Your daily bias, like in this last chop, would be, okay, maybe we're going to sweep here and I'll execute if we get some triggers to like take these lows into this level. Or if we get short triggers here, I'll take some shorts, right? I don't think we even had short triggers. I think we just like cooked hard above it, right? It wasn't even overbought. You didn't have any divs. So immediately you'd be looking at like, okay, this level, the next level. But like doing anything in here of saying, okay, I'm going to long with stops under here or shorts with, you know, stops up here, like you're just probably flopping bias. And that's why like this summer chop is like, you know, during the entire week, you're probably getting like, you know, 3 or 4 areas that are like super clear in which to like take trades, and the rest is like this. It's just, it's brutal. And that's the summer chop, like this here too. Horrendous, right? You kind of have a few good areas in which you get actual nice tests, and the rest of the summer chop is just like, this is terrible. This is horrendous. It's there is no direction, and that's it. The way that you're confused is exactly what this price action is doing to people. It's just chopping them up. And so building a daily bias is important, but then understanding that like, okay, if, you know, I'm looking for these levels to execute, you might have to be patient for even a day or two until price gets there. And you know what? That's all right, because it's like, I'll show you guys like the 6th here was a good opportunity to get into positions after we had pushed above, right? When price was here, you were in the middle of nowhere. So what you would have been looking for is exactly this that we spoke about, or you would have been looking for this. So like you can see, we grinded resistance, we pushed above. Positioning here long is difficult because where are you going to put your stops? We can easily come sweep this and move higher. You know, you can't short and put your stops here because like we just flipped resistance, right? You're kind of in the middle of nowhere. you would be looking for a position if we get into this sweeps of liquidity up here, which we almost got, or a retest after flipping the level, which is exactly what this is, right? So that was the 6th. So if you look at ETH, this was the 6th, right? We pushed into this level with this big impulsive candle. The 6th was here. You could have had your daily bias set that if we retest the current level that was flipped on both Bitcoin and ETH, I'd look for a position, right? Total, same thing, pushed up, right? Like you can't long here. Like what are you longing here? Like, you know, stops under here to target like this, right? It makes no sense. You'd be waiting for like a move into here to try some shorts, or again, you're looking for that retest. USDT, same thing. We came into support, right? You would look for this retest in this area. And so you can see how they all lined up. Bitcoin got the retest, ETH got the retest, Total 2 had a retest, USDT pushed into resistance. And so you could have positioned into alts for this move here, right? It's probably the only real chance you had for a clean trade in the last while, because we grinded resistance a whole day. If you weren't long from lower, you're not longing here, you'd wait for this. And you can see too, we'll look at alts. So Sol, right? This is the same. You can see down at the bottom here. This is the 6th of August as well, right? If you turn your levels on, you can see like 72. In times of like super chop too, I will use like 2-hour levels. Like I do like 2-hour. Been using them a lot lately in this chop, and it's actually been quite well. But you can see that like, right, timing things with the fact that like Bitcoin retested here. If this was your daily bias waiting for longs, you tied it in with ETH, you tied it in, right, with all of those, you can see that like you had Sol come into support here at the same time, indicating to you that you could have taken a long on Sol, right? If you look, lower time frames, you have divergences, really clear divergences giving you triggers for that trade, right? RSI plus OBV div plus RSI, you know, sitting just above oversold. You had really clean triggers to tie everything in with a long here on Sol. It's the same with Pangu, right? So this is your levels here, right? I've just drawn the 1 4-hour level that you had. This is the 6th of August, same thing. You had your retest here, sweep of these lows. If you go, you can look, and right, you also had triggers here, right? You had a nice 30-minute div into the levels, tying it in at the same time that all these happened, so that gave good long opportunities to hold into the weekend. You had Tau, same thing, come into this level, this confluence zone here for a retest on the 6th of August, same time. And you also had the low time frame triggers to execute that trade, right? 30-minute div, beautiful, right? So you could have been long into the weekend for, and like even Bitcoin, right? So we looked at it, like look at the divs you have into that retest, like just perfect, right? You had 30-minute multiple drives here, Ethereum, the same area. You didn't necessarily have any divergences on the 30-minute. You had one on the 15-minute here on the 6th. Look at total. We had a 30-minute div. You look at USDT. You had 30-minute divs opposite, right? So you had every trigger in the world, if that was what you're waiting for, was that flip of the level to get positioned for longs. It was crystal clear and perfect. And, you know, in the moment, it's not crystal clear. That's the point of doing these kind of like back tests and reviewing the data and going over things together, because in the moment it isn't crystal clear. But you can see that if you're paying attention to these things and you're watching for the pattern recognition of like the levels and all these divergences lining up across what you've built your daily bias on, how you could have blocked out emotions and the psychological, like whatever, you're looking at Twitter or you're just kind of psyching yourself out like, oh, I got chopped last year, whatever it is, and said, okay, there's very, very clear triggers now to take a trade across everything, One sec here. Yeah, okay, so, but yeah, Brush, and to answer your question of the chop, that's exactly it. Like, that's why it's important to kind of build a daily bias so that you can look to avoid that. And, you know, you're still not going to avoid it completely because summer chop is low volume and it's meant to be like this. So, will you have a look at pump, please, Dill? Yeah, 100%. I actually longed pump based on exactly what we're talking about now. So, like, let me show you. So I had longed pump here. So I didn't actually catch the lows on pump, but you can see that like very clean structure. We were breaking out of the H4. We had put in divs here into the lows, right? We had 3 drive. Like this was a very, very beautiful long on pump, if anyone caught that, right? You had 3 drives here, like just crystal clear, right? And again, like just the levels and the divs, that's all it is, right? Even here, you could have longed. Here, you could have shorted. Here, you could have longed. You know, here, you would have lost because of like the clear pump up, maybe, depending where your stop loss is. But like, right, you're not going to win them all, right? Probably would have lost this one. So you would have won 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. And lost 2, right? But like the wins you would have had on this short, these scalps in this long, far outweigh like your stops on these 2. But you can just see how the divs and levels just work so cleanly. And basically, yeah, so I longed after, I didn't catch all these divs, but we've been pumping over the weekends, and just based on the fact that like my daily bias was, you know, Bitcoin was strong and it has been holding, like I said. So we held this like H4 breaker. Actually, I think it's an H1 breaker. Yeah, so it wasn't an H4, but like we are holding this level on Bitcoin. On ETH, we even pushed into these resistances and held. So I was like, we probably pump over the weekend. And so I looked at coins, pump looked really good. I didn't catch the lows, but I was comfortable to take a trade based on the fact that like the structure of pump is fantastic. I mean, this coin is just doing the same thing over and over and over. Right? Same thing over and over and over, right? It's just very clean structure. It's probably the cleanest coin right now for, you know, upwards momentum structure. Right? And it's just the same thing. And so I figured if we're going to pump, right, we're even, you know, deviated slightly, but still holding the H450. I figured this was going to be a nice move over the weekend, and lo and behold, that's exactly what we got. So and now, yeah, exactly. 272 is a very strong zone. And, you know, like we have a 4-hour div, we're overbought. 30-minute, right? Like we had some divs into this level, but impulse further into this level. I'd fully closed it by around here. And now, you know, like we could get a move like this to create that div, which could give you a really nice short opportunity. Because, yeah, this is a strong level. And if you get this and you've built your daily bias like we spoke about with Bitcoin doing, you know, a div into here, and also you get a push maybe on ETH, you know, USDT comes into support, all of that lines up also with, you know, pump at this level, then like maybe you get that really nice opportunity for a short, like you're saying, at that level. Yeah, no problem, Brushin. Happy to help. Glad to hear that they're helpful as well. What's going on, Kirby? My boy, how you doing? I'm kind of really good in fundamentals for some years. I'm currently trying to understand how the market moves according to TA very well. Thanks a lot for this session. But I used to get confused on liquidity hunting as I used to hear about it. Can you briefly say something on it, please? Yeah, for sure. So let me drink some coffee here. So in times of chop, liquidity is everything, right? Like these, like, let's see here. So when I'm talking about my daily bias too, right? Like what you can look for that's really going to help you is like liquidity sweeps. So when we're moving really slow and prices in these grindy areas, like liquidity sweeps are key, right? You know, you can see these bigger ones, you know, we never actually close below, but like these are liquidity that are left, right? And so like, you know, in this choppy price action, like we're not trending super strong. Like for instance on pump, like pump is, you know, it's trending. We're not in a range, right? Like this is very clear trending structure, right? Like we're trending up on pump. It's not in a range. And so like liquidity is going to be a little bit different on this. Like maybe we'll take some liquidity to the downside, but it's like we're not sweeping highs and rejecting and just continuing to range. Bitcoin, we're not moving very much on Bitcoin. We are in a range. So it's like there is liquidity here and here, right? All these people have had shorts from all this move down, and so like people have stops that are sitting right above here. You can see honestly how many times we front ran all these lows. Like there's a ton of liquidity sitting here, and so, you know, even here front ran the low, right? Like we have a ton of liquidity here of people with stops who have been short all sitting around here. Even on heat maps there's like liquidity here. And so when we make a move into this, because we're not trending, if we were trending, it wouldn't even matter. You'd probably just do this and just blow everybody out. But it's, you know, we're not doing that. That's what we're doing on pump. Pump is extremely strong. It's got narratives. It's got volume. It's not ranging anymore. And if you look at pump, it did range for a very long time. Like, you know, we had come down for some time, right? We were just like sitting in this area as a range. You know, we had broken down, reclaimed that range, kind of deviated it, and now we're like pushing outside the top of the range and just sending higher. But right now on Bitcoin, for example, is a really good way to look at liquidity, because we are going to 100% get a reaction from either of these zones. That's why it's important to set a daily bias. Like, and if we don't, in terms of like a downside reaction to this, and we just hold and push, like that's a crazy bullish sign that like we're definitely moving back up to 67, 68. But you can almost fully expect a move into this liquidity, and then most likely a move to grab lower liquidity before higher. And it's kind of how these like tight choppy conditions and ranges work, is price is seeking liquidity on either side, and you're most likely going to get a reaction. Like ETH, for example, here, right? You had these equal highs. You can see that we took the liquidity. You had a very nice reaction, right? Like we pushed up. Now we didn't go that low, but like, you know, 2% scalp. And so same thing on ETH. You can expect that if we take liquidity again into this resistance, or liquidity here into support, that we're most likely going to get a reaction. And, you know, so in these tight, choppy conditions, it's really good to look for liquidity. And you want to look for like key levels, right? Like key swing levels, right? Like this is kind of a range that we were in for Tau, right? You kind of have like your range high area here, range lows, and we've kind of been in this range, and now we're breaking out of this range, right? And so you can see the liquidity sweeps at each side, right? We come up, we sweep liquidity, we move to the downside. You come up, sweep liquidity again here, come up, sweep liquidity again here, we go down, sweep the liquidity here, right? You can see the reactions when it's in a range, and now very, very strong reaction. You know, we've swept liquidity, we've built up a ton of longs and shorts in here. Strongs are what are winning here, right? Like you can see what happens where we SFP, swing failure pattern it, we SFP, we sweep and hold above, we sweep, close below. We are now like, if we close the candle like this is very, very strong, right? We've like completely just taken this liquidity and closed above, which means like we are most likely breaking the range. And instead of sweeping it here and, you know, probably making a move lower, again, just ranging because we're seeking liquidity on both sides, you can expect that we probably, if anything, give a retest here and hold if we're bullish, right? You can see we pushed up here to this high, and you can just see that like there's liquidity at key highs, at key levels. And so when price gets to those levels, you're going to see a reaction. Now, when we're in a range, like I said, you can expect price to just sweep highs. You can expect price to sweep lows until we break from one side of it. So that's like a little bit on liquidity. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay, good stuff, good stuff. Can you look at Cato currently in a long? Yeah, funny enough, I'm actually long Cato too. It's the first shitcoin I played in so long. I seen it had funding of like -3%. And I opened the chart on, like, I forget what I was doing. Something came up. I was gonna stream Saturday. Opened some charts, was looking through things, ended up like taking like this, and it was actually like ended up being like really nice Pico. But yeah, like I don't know what's going on with this coin, but like if we look at the funding, like funding is absolutely cranked on this thing. So the funding has been minus like 3 to 2%, which is insane. And like I'm pretty confident this is exactly what you see when something's gearing up for like a scam run. So if you look here, right, you can see the white is spot and this is perps. You can see spot 100% start buying when funding goes like this, which typically means that like they're cornering spot, which like just means that someone's like manipulating the price essentially and like pushing the funded super low. There's all these people who are super short after a massive move down, right? Like this dumped like 50% into a very key level. And now funding is been super, super negative, like -2, -3, which is just absurd. But someone's buying the fuck out of spot here. And so they're holding price here through manipulation while they just load up a ton of spot. And there's people shorting heavily, right? You can see the open interest flying while the, the funding rate is negative, like going negative, while someone's buying a ton of spot. So I don't know if or when it'll happen, but like I opened the chart and seen that the funding was like -2, -3, and we had some divs into levels. Ended up getting like a super Pico position. I'm still in mine too, Kirby, by the way. Like we really do gotta like flip this level again. But basically, I don't know if it'll happen or not. It's just these are the kind of common things I see when something's gearing up for a scam move, right? Like even lower time frames, you can see people are still, it's not even people, it's some entity or something is buying like massive spot while price looks like this and funding's super negative. I've been paid out on like 5 funding payments and made like a full trade profit just from holding this. I'm still in it too on this sweep due to like what I'm seeing on the order flow. But yeah, I don't know. The coin looks like it wants to like make some sort of crazy scam pump somewhere. So I would say probably though, like just have stops below that low. Like I have my stops below this low now. They're not here anymore. I don't want to see it continue to go lower. If it does, I definitely want to see it move higher. But yeah, I mean, I don't know when you entered this trade, but you probably got paid out some pretty decent funding on it. So, but it's got all the things that I would look for in a scam pump. It's the first time I played an alt that isn't like a major in quite some time, to be honest. That's another thing too. Just another tip for you guys in this like summer chop is like, if you're trading, you know, mid caps or low caps and stuff, like you're probably not having the best of time unless you're G2K, who is just, I don't even know, the dude is an absolute beast, trades any and every coin like crazy. But like for me to be honest, I've been trading Bitcoin, Sol, Hype, ETH, pretty much like, you know, like ZEC and Pump, like just like, you know, 5 or 6 coins that are all like very high market cap that respect levels and are actually going to be a lot easier to trade than trying to find coins that are just like these random, you know, random coins or just names that are dino coins and all this. It's like, it's not worth your time, especially in this summer chop. So something to just think about if you guys are getting chopped up and you're not sure the coins to trade, just stick to like I stick basically to BTC, ETH, Pump, Hype, Lit a little bit, you know, ZEC, Sol, like Fartcoin, Pepe, right? Like just these coins that are like extremely high market cap that have a lot of volume compared to the market. And yeah, you know, I haven't been trading a whole lot, to be honest, outside of even Bitcoin and ETH, the odd alt here and there, and it's been actually quite nice. It's been like a lot less stressful. Yeah, nice. So like you probably got paid same as me, like 4 or 5 funding payouts already, which is great, right? It's even like, even if you took this stop, it's probably, you're going to be at like break even essentially. So it's like, it's not the worst thing in the world to try and look for a scam pump. Personally, I think that, you know, at some point this is going to go parabolic, may or may not, because I also read there's like some unlock coming. So I don't even know. It's just, it's got the typical things I look for in a scam coin. Someone's buying a shit ton of spot while suppressing the price and making everyone short. And yeah, at some point this probably bounces like a beach ball underwater. So I'm kind of just waiting on that. But covered a lot here. So let me know if you guys have any questions on, you know, building a daily bias. If you want me to look at some charts, if you have questions about the Woodsbot indicator, Woodsbot trading bots, anything at all. You could take a position with stops under here. Like, I'm not saying there's any guarantee, but you know, you could take a small position if you wanted to, depending like if you want to risk it or not. Like I said, I've been in here for a while, and so I got paid like 500. Even if I took a stop, I'd be break even because like I've been getting paid out massively from the funding. But I do think at some point this rips, and you did just have a nice sweep. And so, you know, you could long it with a stop beneath here if you wanted. I wouldn't risk a whole lot on it given the weekend and it's a shit coin, but like you could take a position here with stop below the low for sure. Oh, really? They don't pay funded payouts on breakout? Damn, I didn't know that. I didn't even know this was on breakout. Huh. I mean, it'd be worth checking out your history to see. Short from 128. Oh, what the fuck? Wow. Did you catch a nice short at least? That's crazy. Damn. Yeah. But it's also impossible to know that a coin is just going to dump 50%. Like, that's crazy. Since the end of July. Yeah, like that's mental. What is your view on LTC? Yeah, let me take a look here. So LTC is currently rejecting from resistance here. So I'm just gonna, this is what I do with every coin. I'll just map out my levels, right? And I'll put them on manually just so that when I go to lower time frames, I can actually still see them. Right, so I'll map them out daily, it takes 2 seconds, and then I can go to lower time frames and see, you know, what's going on here. And like you can see here, you know, crystal clear, right? Like beautiful triggers here into a resistance level, like very easy short to take there if you did, right? And then like you can also see that we've come into 4-hour supply, right? So this is a very nice level here to actually look for shorts if you did execute the short. You know, I would watch to see what happens here on lower time frames, and then this would also be a nice level here, basically if you were looking for longs. Now if we start closing 4-hour candles above, you know, this supply and this H4 resistance here, you can 100% target like clearing this gap into the next confluence zone above for sure. But we are overbought on the 4-hour, right? So you have all the triggers in the world that make sense for a short there. And basically, you know, we're already coming into the 50 mark here. So I would just watch on lower time frames to see at these levels. But yeah, at resistance now with clear triggers, you know, it's kind of similar on Bitcoin. Like we're closer to resistance than we are support. Same with ETH, right? Like this is resistance, like even though we've tested it and all this, right? So it goes back to building your daily bias like I was talking about. We built our daily bias and we understood, right? You know, even looking at divergences, we have bearish divergences into the confluence zone on ETH. We have, you know, Bitcoin is closer to resistance here than it is support by a lot. Total, you know, we did close above, but you even have this liquidity here, right? So it's like, go on lower time frames, right? We're overbought. So it's like, it's not the place for longs. We know that. You have USDT closer to support. USD is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but we did sweep this, right? So kind of in the middle of nowhere on USDT. It doesn't give us the clearest read. That's all right. They won't always. But we know Bitcoin, ETH, and total are at resistance or close to. And so you look at something like LTC and you see that it has, you know, supply here on the 4-hour, a 4-hour resistance. You have multiple drives of 30-minute bearish divergences, giving you the triggers for a short into your zone for a short, right? So yeah, that's kind of how I would look at that chart. And now I would look for, you know, if you're not short and you want to get long, I would just watch these two levels here. But my real more high confidence long scenarios would be a retest into this level here, right? Or a flip above here to target here. But you could also watch this level as well. So, but yeah, that's kind of my view on LTC. You know, if that helps at all or you want to see something else. So I trade ETH mostly and see on higher time frame we've already had market structure change. So I've been looking to short. Does that sound right? Let me just clean this up a bit here. Yeah, so if we're looking, like, I guess, what time frame of market structure are you looking at? I typically will look at 4-hour, but I just want to see if you're looking at like daily or like, yeah, 4-hour. All right, sweet. So if I'm looking at 4-hour, we have, you know, higher high, higher low. We have higher high, higher low, higher high, right? And then we do end up, right? We put in a higher low, but we never end up breaking the higher high, and we go down, we put in a lower low, right? So you are correct in thinking that, like, you know, we could put in a lower high here, could put in a lower high here before going lower, for sure. It is super choppy and tight, however, and it's like tough because, you know, we just broke out of this, and at the same time we broke out of that. We're now flipping, you know, the 50 mark on RSI here. And so, like, it's just, you have, this is like summer PA classic. It's like you have a way to look at both the bullish and the bearish scenario and be just as confident in both and just as confused by both. So it's like, structure wise, yes, we do have the lower low here after breaking this one here, right? This wasn't actually one because it didn't lead to a higher high. So, you know, this was the structural low after the higher high, the higher low into the higher high, and we did break that. So structurally, 100%, you know, this is either the area or this resistance here that we've rejected from once, twice, maybe 3 times, makes sense if we are going to put in a lower high. And then there's also the counter argument that, like, you know, we just broke out of the downtrend here. We almost put it all the way back down into oversold. You know, we've kind of pushed through this, like we're almost in like a range here. And so it's like, you know, highs, you've got your lows, like deviates out a bit. But like, you know, we're kind of at this like very key level here, like I said, where you would want to look for that lower high. But like price, like it looks pretty bullish, like where we're at. And, you know, we already swept these highs and we didn't even like close below here. It doesn't mean we can't, but like you would kind of expect this reaction to probably be the one that like sends us lower. Doesn't mean we can't go into this level to go lower, but yeah, what you're saying is correct. And this would be the area here, right in here, to look for that lower high, right? And so if you do put in that lower high, right, and we go back down to the range low, and then you get that like, you know, move like that, right? And then your trend line becomes like this. So you are correct in, you know, the structure of it. It's just a very hard summer market, like I said, where, you know, you can make the argument for both. And then you can go on even higher time frames, right? Like this is what's helpful too, is that like having a bias on all time frames. If you go to the daily, right? If we start closing any dailies above this, this is very bullish. Like I said, we're kind of in that like range that I had. And you can see that we like retested the 50 mark on RSI. We haven't flipped the daily 50 mark on RSI since early May, right? So these are other things to look at since here. Like, let me just map this out so you can see clearly. So looking at higher time frames is also very key. That doesn't mean the 4 hour won't play out, but like the market overall is very bullish in terms of at least consolidating and like these types of things. So if we just strictly take this off, this is where we lost the 50 mark on the daily, which is May 12th. We did not reclaim that until early July, right? And now we've also retested the 50 mark and held so far. And now if you use the levels, you can see that we have rejected this area. 1, 2, 3, 4, that recent wick, and we're still holding and grinding up. If we close any dailies above this area here, we most likely are looking to target up here on higher time frames. Now, this is also the area you would look for that lower high, like I said, right? So this is a very critical area if we're analyzing this, because either we are going to get that lower high, like you're pointing out with the structure on 4 hour, into, you know, probably a move down here, and or we are going to get some sort of closures above this and become actually quite bullish by breaking out of this like range and starting to target up here, right? So this is the area, in short, you would look for that structural lower high. And this is also the area where you really want to pay attention for if we do flip. So it's a very, very critical area here, and you can play both ways essentially. So it's kind of like a long tangent on it, but it just gives you some insight into like how I view the market and how you can view it on different time frames to kind of see, you know, what these areas of interest actually mean for the market. And so I hope that that makes sense there. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so you'll typically see like if we zoom out, you can see, right, this, I don't even know what this trend would be, but like you can see this massive trend line that we've broken. And these will typically happen in the same tandem as this, right? Like you can see again, we broke the daily, flipped the daily on the RSI, and we've now broken out of this trend line on higher time frames, and we've retested it as well. At the same time, we retested the 50 mark on the daily, right? Like these are all very bullish things that you want to see, right? But 4-hour time frame, we are still ranging, just like you're saying. And so if we did expect to have that lower high, it would be somewhere around this area, which is that key level that we just talked about, right? Like this is the level where if we flip range highs, we flip the daily 3-day confluence zone, and we can start to move higher up. But if we reject, we probably do end up coming down towards the lows or something. So very, very critical area here. When looking at closures as it grinds up, are you typically, yeah, for me, basically, in terms of looking at closures and like flipping levels, it depends what level. If I'm looking at the daily levels, then I'm looking for daily closes. If I'm looking at the 4-hour levels, then I'm looking at 4-hour closes. So if you get like a 4-hour close above a daily level, it's good, but it's not the kind of confirmation trigger I'd be looking for a level to be flipped. So, for instance, I think we had a really clean one. What was that chart we were looking at? Oh, it was ETH here with this very nice 4-hour flip, right? So if we close like hourly levels above this 4-hour, it'd be great. But when we get a closure like this, which is a 4-hour close above a level, that's the indication to me that that's a strong close, right? You have a lot of levels in here. So if it's like we get 4-hour closures above this 4-hour level, that's a great first sign. But I want to see a daily close above this level. And that's right, because you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have wicked into it just recently and rejected. So if we get that close above it, that's a very strong signal to me, like a very strong signal that this level is looking to flip. And then you'd look for the 3-day close, which is, the closure tomorrow. So you close the daily above and then, get that 3-day close above. Like this is very bullish if we get it. But I look for the specific time frame closure above levels, for instance. So the 4-hour, I'll look for closes above on the 4-hour, just like this. And, same goes for all levels. Next intraday move for pump. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, pump is like extremely strong, but you can see the reactions each time it gets into this overbought territory here, right? We get a nice pullback. This area here, right? So, I mean, ideally a pullback into here or here would be fantastic. Now, do we get that? I don't know. It does give pretty healthy pullbacks each time. So like 18%, 10%, 12%. So, a pullback from here, like, 10 to 13% is definitely very possible. So, I mean, anywhere in this area here would be fantastic to get long again. And it's where I'll have my alerts and stuff set, right? It just ends up being, again, just great structure. So I would look for this area here on pump. If we go to higher time frames and see kind of where we're at, right? Big level here, big level here. Now a deeper pullback into this level would be fantastic, but you know, that's, you're probably pushing like 20 something percent. So 22%. Now, if you get the ETH scenario that we spoke about, and ETH, right? And this is why it's like important to like daily bias, tie in all these different charts and stuff. If we do get the end up with a fake out or deviation or whatever and end up going down into sweeping this level before higher, right? Deviate the range again down here, then like you can most likely find pump down here for that retest, which would be phenomenal on the higher time frames. But what I would do is I would just watch the lower time frames for honestly a move anywhere into here, and just watch these levels for triggers at each, right? If you get 13-15 minute divs oversold here or here, it's like you have your triggers for the trade. But I do think that, like, you know, this divergence we have here into this very big resistance yields a pullback to at least like somewhere in this area, personally, if I had to guess. I am in short, so that would be nice. Yeah, nice. Yeah, exactly. So depends how you're trading too, because it's like if you're in a position and you get the daily close confirmations, that's fantastic. If you're looking for the daily close, so for me, I'm not like looking for a daily close above to like enter a trade, but I'll be looking at like a daily close above to be like, okay, for instance, if we go to Tau, right, this 4 hour close above, you can see how many times we reject this kind of like range that we're in right here. And so this 4 hour close above is my indication that like, oh, okay, this is bullish. So I'm not, you could enter a trade if you were a breakout trader and you want to play it like that, 100% that's a trigger for it. But for me, this indicates that like, okay, I'm not really looking to short these levels. It's not my interest. I'm looking for a retest now because we flipped a level, right? So I'll set my alerts and wait for price to get to these points whenever that is. Kind of already retested this level. So ideally what I would want is the retest of this level. So a closure above for me indicates that like, okay, great. We've now broken out of this range. You know, we're most likely going to trend into like whatever, probably up here over time, unless we deviate and go back in. So for me, the close above indicates that like, okay, this is great. I now have a directional bias on this and I can just set alerts and just wait for price action to get to this retest here. And, you know, when it does, we get some 15 or 30 minute oversold triggers into this, fantastic. There's my trade and I can try and ride that higher. But you can also approach it from the standpoint of like, you got the closes above here. If you're a breakout trader, that's exactly the trigger you look for, right? So many ways to play it. Yeah, no problem. Do you only look for closes on the same time frame, like 4 hour closes on only 4 hour? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can mix and match. I don't make decisions on like a 4 hour close above a daily. It's a positive sign for sure. But majority of my trading too is just, you know, this will be the levels and all I'm doing is price gets here. So like if I'm in trades, I'm looking at closures because it's a good indication of higher or lower. But the way I trade is I just have these levels mapped out and it's like my alert goes off, I get oversold or overbought triggers, just like you have these overbought ones up here into resistance, and it's like I'll take the trade. 30 or 15 minute time frame is what I'm looking at. You know, I have the levels there that I'm interested in taking the trade at. And then if I'm in this trade and, you know, I'm long and we start closing above here on 4 hour, fantastic. That's just a positive sign for my long, right? But I'm probably taking profits at this, taking profits at this, taking profits at this. So like, you know, I'm not really a swing trader, like at all. Like I'll trade, you know, my trades maybe nowadays have to hold my trade for 2-3 days just to get a move because of summer PA. But, you know, on average, I'm holding a trade for a few days. I'm not like specifically taking this trade here and like trying to ride it up to here if it ends up happening, because I get really good moves for sure. But I just watch the closes, especially if I'm looking at Bitcoin, for instance, or ETH, and I'm just trying to like have a daily bias, right? So this daily bias here, whatever, on ETH, like just, this is great. This close above after being in this little range is fantastic and tells me that I'd want to have a retest here. Bitcoin was similar, right? We tested all this here like 5 times, and then we got this candle close above. Tells me that I want to get into a long here, right? And that's what I did too. Like I am still in a Bitcoin long. And I think there was like 2-hour levels here or something. I think there was divs. Yeah, this is where there was like multiple drives of divs. I don't know if my levels are up to date on this, but I was in the long from here on this like retest, and then, you know, we got divs and stuff, just gave me more confirmation to like hold this, and ended up playing out. But I'll watch 4-hour closes on 4-hour levels and daily closes on daily levels, especially if I'm trying to like understand where the market's going, like ETH, right? Prime examples on ETH, like we're talking about. Like at the end of the day, when the day closes and the week closes, it's like I'll look at these levels and see, and it's like if we close the daily like up here, I'm like, okay, this is fantastic. Maybe we get a retest into some levels here, or maybe we just flip this, take this liquidity, and then I'm looking for a retest here. But it'll give me a bias on understanding where. Whereas inversely, get a push up like this, close the daily below here, oh, okay, well, I'm probably going to expect a retest here maybe to get short into levels below. So it'll give me like a map of like levels and where I'm looking to execute essentially. Yeah, exactly. So it pulls the volume and all of that stuff from the specific chart you're on. So they will be different from Bybit to BitGet slightly. They're typically like somewhat the same, but sometimes they'll be different for sure. So that's definitely just normal. Yeah, the only problem with the copy trading stuff is that like so many people start doing it that like levels become front run, and like liquidity, and people get targeted and stuff. Copy trading is like a very difficult thing. We try to give you guys the next best thing as close as possible to that being like the AI limit order bot, where, I mean, it essentially is copy trading. You just have to put in the limits yourself. But yeah, copy trading always presents so many issues for so many various reasons. It's a bit difficult. And they just destroy you on fees. Like they make so much money from that removes money from everybody else. And you get enough people following that if, you know, enough people are trying to close out of the same position because it's just copy trading system, then like some people get slammed way harder than others, and there's just a lot of issues that arise for sure. But we got some big things coming for you guys too that like you will be very, very happy about. Yeah, it's only for pet members, unfortunately. Yeah. Got to give the people that support us the most, though, some access to those premium tools for sure. But yeah, it's been over an hour now, guys. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to shoot and we can run through them. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap this one up. Hopefully this was helpful on building a daily bias and kind of being able to use the tools and the bots to help you minimize some of the emotions and noise in the market. Yeah, no problem, Slayerize. Appreciate you, Vlad, Russian. Appreciate all you guys, Kirby, my boy. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And yeah, we'll be back to streaming next week. We actually have, I'll be joined with a special guest, which I'll announce next week for you guys too. So there'll be 2 of us on the stream here. And yeah, we'll keep it pushing. Build your daily bias, stay patient, execute at the correct areas, and yeah, don't get chopped up. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, peace.